and welcome back to another episode of From Rudyard to Ruskin. This podcast series is your window to the natural world around us. We take flight into this world with the help of books, in prose, verse, and illustrations. And I have the pleasure of choosing these books for you. On this series so far, I have talked about various kinds of books that connect us with nature. Books that educate us, books that teach us to empathize with our fellow species, books that highlight the climate crisis, books that talk about bravery of communities and individuals who put up a fight to protect the environment. One thing that I have realized while reading these books is that we humans, take too many things for granted. We are often led by the misguided notion that we are at the center of the universe and everything else is either secondary or insignificant. Time and again, this sense of entitlement has put humans in conflict with the rest of the planet. It's humans versus animals, it's humans versus forests, it's humans versus marine biodiversity, humans versus mountains, and so on. Such conflicts will only intensify in the years to come because, let's admit it, we have made a mess of this planet. In July 2018, during my years at a national newspaper in Delhi, I came across some disturbing news about a proposal to fell some 15,000 trees in the capital. Why? To make way for a so-called development project. For one of the most polluted cities in the world, this was a death sentence. Horrified Delhi residents took to the streets and social media to protest this move. Those in the media, like me, sought to highlight the news through stories, opinion pieces, interviews, and so on. I started looking for people who could write informed and illuminating pieces on urban trees and forests. That's when I came across the name of David George Haskell, a professor of biology in the USA and the author of the books The Songs of Trees and The Forest Unseen. I started reading up on him and was particularly fascinated by The Songs of Trees, the book in which he visits trees in different parts and ecosystems of the world. From Manhattan to Jerusalem, Japan to Scotland, and Colorado to Ecuador. He selects 12 trees and visits them over time. So there is a pine tree, a fir tree, ash and pear, a hazel in Scotland that is more than 10,000 years old, an olive tree in Jerusalem, a bonsai pine that survived the Hiroshima bombing. So what attracts the author to these trees? He loves to listen to them. He studies them over the years like a scientist in a laboratory. He writes that the balsam fir in northern Ontario hisses in the wind like fine steel wool burnishing a tabletop. The needles of a ponderosa pine in Colorado are so stiff that even a small gust of wind sounds like a huge landslide. This was enough to make me shoot an email to David George Haskell. I requested him to write on the significance of urban trees. So imagine my surprise when he promptly agreed. When the piece arrived well before deadline, I was thrilled to find that he had written about the pear tree, the same pear tree he features in the Songs of Trees. This tree, an import from China, carries glossy green leaves to the third floor of an apartment building. A street vendor and newsstand sit under the arches of its limbs, while most people walk past without giving the tree a glance. As in the book, Haskell argues that the tree's life and the life of people in its neighborhood are inseparably connected. Every breath of air entering human lungs is partly cleansed by trees. The leaves of trees absorb and detoxify air pollution, and the architecture of twigs and bark serve as soot catchers. In other words, our very own lung cells are directly linked to trees. Haskell throws light on how a tree changes how people interact on the street. So, on a sidewalk without trees, the only possible movement for people is to keep moving forward. But a street tree breaks this flow. It entices people to step into this quieter zone, to talk, to rest. And then he comes to his favorite part, the part that fascinated me the most when I read the songs of trees. And that is the acoustics of a tree. He writes that leaves reflect sound, creating a small auditorium under the branches, a friendlier acoustic than the open street. And what about the light? He says, light finds its many leafy moods among the tree's branches, refreshing our harried eyes with a memory of the forest. Like Haskell, we all know that life is all about relationship. No species can live alone. No individual can survive without interconnection to others. Haskell learnt this from the pear tree in New York. He says, even though we may seem to be separate, we are in fact deeply and inseparably intertwined. So, coming back to where I began, we humans are not at the center of all things. We are only a part of the story, a story that is incomplete without the natural world. Every time we forget this truth, we create conflict. This brings us to the end of another episode. From Rudyard to Ruskin is our humble endeavor to make you, dear listener, think and care for the planet we inhabit. We are a part of podcast Azim Premji University. You can find us on YouTube and Spotify. To know more about Azim Premji University, follow the link below.